Morning, Algebra 2 students. I hope you're all doing well. Hope you had a good weekend. So today we're going to be looking at, well, last class, our learning objective, we factored and solved polynomials using previous skills. So what we did is we did long division or synthetic division, and then we factored using the RS method and then solved as well. So let's first look at this. Our do now, it says, how do you perform the following operations? How would you perform the following operations? So in this first one, when we have 10x cubed minus 5x squared plus 4x minus 2 divided by x squared minus 3x plus 1, what would you do with that problem? And then also this bottom one here, what would you do with 5x squared minus 2x plus 7 divided by x minus 9? So think about it. If you need to pause it, that's fine. You can also look back at previous problems that we did. How did we do these? So one thing we want to think about when we're dividing is, notice that this is division symbol, right? So we're dividing there. We have a fraction. Fractions mean dividing. So what we have to do is when we divide by something x squared minus 3x plus 1, what method would we use to divide that? And then also think about x divided by x minus 9. What method would we use to divide that? Now we have two methods. We have both synthetic division and then we also have long division. So when I see that I have to divide by x squared, I know that I have to use long division to divide that one. Because I cannot write this as, I cannot use synthetic division like we did for other ones. So how I have to set that up then is I have to set it up in that long division format. So x squared minus 3x plus 1. And then I would do my division symbol in 10x cubed minus 5x squared plus 4x minus 2. And then we remember we always divide, so we divide, we put that number that we get when we divide, and then we multiply, switch the signs, bring down the number, and then we keep repeating that process. So divide, multiply, subtract, meaning switch the signs, and then bring down the number until we get a remainder. For synthetic division, and notice that this one we can do both ways. We can do long division or synthetic division with this one. So this one can be either one. You can do long division or you can do synthetic division. And what you may find though is that synthetic division will be a little quicker. We have less things to write out. We don't need to write those x's. We can just set it up as, first thing we want to do is we do x minus 9 equals 0 to figure out what number are we going to use. And we're going to use a positive 9. And then when we write our setup, we do 5x cubed. And then notice we don't have any x squared, so we have to write 0x squared. So we know that 0 is going to be for the x squared, and then negative 2 and 7. And then this one's a much faster method to get to our final answer. All right, so hopefully that's what you were thinking as well. So today our agenda, we're going to be doing some practice, and we're actually going to be looking at a problem kind of like this, but more with polynomial things. So, and then we'll correct our homework. Notice that on Thursday and Friday, we're going to have a daily practice quiz. So it's not a standard quiz. Notice, not a standard quiz. It's just going to be kind of like a homework assignment, basically, in a quiz format. Now that I think about it, it's probably not much more than me just giving you a homework assignment. So that means today will be our last lesson, and then we'll be doing that on Thursday and Friday. All right, so our objective, students will be able to solve volume problems by factoring polynomials. So we're going to look at the solving of volume problems. So when we look at this problem here, it says, what is the volume of the rectangular prism? And one person might say, oh, I'll just like count all of these. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Another person might be like, oh, that would take forever. And then we can't see some of these that we have to count underneath, and then even underneath on this row as well. Another person's like, well, I know volume equals our length, so we can count the number of squares there. So they're like, oh, it's length times the width times the height. And then they might be like, okay, so this is the length. I figure out how many how many units, there's 3 units up, and then how many units back. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Here, 1, 2, 3, 8. Is that 8 back? 1, 2, 3. Right, so 8, 10, 8, 10, 3, 4, or sorry, 8, 3, 10, none of those other numbers I said. And then you just multiply them, right? So we do 8 times 3 times 10. But what happens if we didn't know one of them? Like, what if we didn't know this one? But we knew that our volume was this. How would we find a missing side is what we're going to be looking at today. How would we find a missing side if we knew what the answer was? So it's like we know 3 things and we don't know the other. So let's look and see what, first we're going to go back and do a problem from last time just to get our minds in the right set. So since it says factor this polynomial given that x minus 5 is a factor. So it's really saying factor means divide, right? So we're thinking divide this completely given that this is a divisor. So this divides evenly into this. So it's saying divide these 2 things is really what the problem says. So when we see factor, we think divide. So what do we have to do? We have to first do x minus 5 equals 0 because it's written as a factor. So we have to see what x do we want to substitute in, right? And with our synthetic division, so we're positive 5. And then how does the rest of the setup look? All right, so then we write our numbers across. Remember, this is a 1 in front. 9, negative 37, negative 165. So we bring down our 1, 5 times 1. So remember, it's add, multiply. So add, multiply. Is that 60? 50, 60 is 12, so it'd be 70. All right, and then negative 37 minus 70. So it would be a 3 and 33 positive. And then 5 times 33, I don't even know what that is. So let's do 5 times 3, that'd be 15, plus 5 times 30, which would be 150. So 150 plus 15, 165. Just as we knew it should have been this, right? Because we know that it has to be a 0. But you never know, we made a mistake somewhere else. All right, so that means that this is our remainder. This is constant x squared. We also know x cubed divided by x gives us x squared. All right, so now when we write this out, so we have x squared for 1x squared plus 14x plus 33. So this is the thing that we have to now, how are we going to factor this? That's right, we're going to use the RS method. So RS method tells us that we have to multiply together to equal 33. We have to add up to 14. So what 2 numbers multiply together to equal 33 and add up to 14? That's right, we can use a 3 and an 11. So we'll have x squared plus 3x plus 11x plus 33. Left side, right side. So we have our x plus 3. And then we have plus 11. And same thing, x plus 3. So we can factor out the x plus 3. Left with x plus 11. And it says factor completely. So these were the 2 factors that we found. This is a factor that existed. So we also have to write our other factor, x minus 5. So this polynomial factors to this. Or we could say our answer multiplies together to equal our polynomial, right? So multiply and divide are opposites. All right, so let's keep moving on here to our next thing. So now we're going to look at this as a productive struggle. So we have the volume, we have a length. Oh, we don't have a length, we have a question mark. We have a width or depth, x minus 6, and we have a height, x minus 5. So what could we do to do this? So right now I want you to pause and, well, pause it, write this stuff down, and then What could you do to figure this out? Right, so if you were to think about this, you'd think that, okay, so volume, I know that my volume is equal to my, let's say that this is our length, this is my width, and this is my height, and this is my volume up here. So I know that volume is length, width, height. And which one are we solving for right now? That's right, we're solving for the length. So what we want to do is get this by itself. So what would we do? Well, we divide W and H to both sides. Those would cancel out. So we really have our length is equal to our volume divided by our width times our height. So what does that look like? That looks like x cubed minus 9x squared plus 8x plus 60 over x minus 6 for the width and x minus 5 for the height. So the idea we have, now what would we do from here if we were to do this process? All right, so we could, you're right, we could multiply these together and see what that gets us, and then we could divide. Or could we take this and divide by x minus 6? And then divide by x minus 5? We could also do that too. We could, so two suggestions, we could multiply, then divide. So multiply this together, so we would have, so that would be x squared minus 6x minus 5x, so that would be minus 11x. Negative 6 times negative 5 is positive 30. So that would be the quadratic in the denominator. Top part doesn't change. So this will still be equal to our length. So we could do long division. This would be our long division method. But you're right, we could also take this, divide by x minus 6, then divide by x minus 5. And that would kind of be synthetic division. Or you could just do long division twice. So synthetic division times 2, meaning twice. Maybe I won't put times 2 because we might think we have to multiply by 2. We'll put twice. All right, so synthetic division twice. So we really have two methods here. So if we do this method, we have 6. So we have 1, negative 9, 8, and 60. We know it's going to divide evenly because we know that this is true. So 1, 6 times, that means we're expecting a 0 here. So you have 6, negative 3, negative 18, negative 10, negative 60. Great, so 0. So this would be x squared minus 3x minus 10. But remember, we have to do it twice. So twice means that now I have to divide by x minus 5. Oh, and the part that I kind of skipped here, remember it's x minus 6 equals 0. X is equal to 6. That's why we divided by 6. Now let's divide by, so you have x minus 5 equal to 0. So x is equal to 5. So now we can do synthetic substitution with this part, with the 5. Now watch this. This isn't a magic trick, but kind of. So I'm just going to use this again. I'm going to do synthetic division with these parts, with 5. So I bring down the 1. 5 times 1 is 5. Positive 2. 5 times 2 is 10. 0. So remember, first what we did, this was x squared, or I'm sorry, remainder constant x squared, and then we divided again, and now this, give myself more page here. Now this is our remainder constant x, so it's really x plus 2. And that's our answer, x plus 2. Because that was the length. Remember, we were dividing both of these to get equal to the length. So it's really our length equals x plus 2. So like I was saying before, we could also do that long division. I'm going to show both methods just so that you can see. Maybe this method's going to be something you decide to do. Maybe it's going to be this method. There's still another method that I'm not necessarily going to talk about. And it just has to do with doing synthetic division. What I meant to say is I'll talk about it. I'm just not going to show it. You could do synthetic division, get to this answer, and then instead of dividing by 5, you could just factor this and solve. And you would get x plus 2 and this x minus 5. All right, so let's look at the long division method. So we have x squared minus 11x, or 11, 0, I don't know why I wrote that, plus 30. All right, and then we're dividing x cubed. And some of you are going to prefer one method over the other. To me, it does not matter. X cubed divided by x squared, we get x. I mean, I prefer this method, but that doesn't mean that you prefer that method. So it's all up to you. X times x squared is x cubed. X times the negative 11x. X times 30. Forgot to put a plus there. All right, and then we have to subtract. Whoops. Switch our signs is what I meant to say. Ooh, I don't know how I'm going to get that eraser in there. Oh, perfect. Okay. All right, so then we have a positive 2x squared. We have a negative 22x. We have bring down our 60. All right, so now 2x squared divided by x squared is going to be positive 2. All right, so we divided, now we multiply. 2x squared minus 22x plus 60. Oh, look, it's the exact same thing, but we have to switch the sign. So we switch the sign, and notice that all of it cancels out. 0, 0, 0. Whoa, those are weird zeros. All right, and notice that we get x plus 2, the same thing. So length equals. So what method did you prefer? Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one. Get us the same solution. All right, so let's just look at back what we did. So we first saw that volume equals length times width times height. We solved for the volume for the length by dividing the volume by width over height, and then we just wrote it out like this. And we could either multiply those together and then do long division, or we could do synthetic division twice. And notice that we can just do it right on top of itself. All right, so let's look at this next one. I'll have you do this one and then, so write this down. The volume of the rectangular prism is x cubed plus 3x squared minus 16x plus 12. Use the drawing to find the missing side. So pause it now and solve the problem. All right, so after you're done solving it, let's look and see what we did. So remember, volume equals, oh, we're using red, okay. Let's switch it to blue. All right, so we have volume equals, we know we have our length, our width, and our height. So heights are, we got to solve for the height then. So volume equals length times width times height. We want to get height by itself. So we really want the volume over length times width equals height. So if we rewrite this, we know that height is going to equal our volume divided by our length and our width. So our length in this case is x minus 1. Notice I'm going to put these in parentheses because they're being multiplied, and my width is x minus 2. So what method did you use? Oh, you used synthetic division? I'm just kidding. I don't know what you did. All right, so synthetic division. I think I'm missing an E in there. Have I been doing that the whole time? Interesting. Can't even spell. All right. Synthetic. Yeah, synthetic division. That's weird. Now it doesn't look right either. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so synthetic division. So what we need to do is we need to divide by x minus 1, then we'll divide by x minus 2. So our setup for this, or if you did long division, right? If you did long division, you multiplied these two. And all right, so we have dividing by x minus 1, so x minus 1 equals 0, so x equals 1. We have 1, 3, negative 16, 12. We're expecting to have a 0 here because we know it's going to work. 1, 1, 4, 4, negative 12, and negative 12. All right, so 0. All right. So we divided by x minus 1. Now, we could factor this. We could factor it and figure it out, but we also know that x minus 2 works. So we know that we can also do x minus 2 equals 0. And then we know that x equals 2. So we're going to use synthetic division with 2. So we have a 2. And now we do 1, 2, 6, 12, 0. And what does this mean? That means remainder is 0, means our constant term and our x term. So it's really x plus 6. Problem solved. So our height is really x plus 6. Now that doesn't really make sense. It feels like this should be longer, but this isn't drawn to scale. So if you did long division, you found that this equaled x squared minus 3x plus 2, and then you did long division with that. So you did we'll use a different color for the long division one. So you did x squared minus 3x plus 2. I got this by multiplying these two together. So x times x is x squared, x times negative 2, negative 2x, negative 1 times x, negative x, negative 2x, negative x, negative 3x, negative 1 times 2, positive 2. All right, and then we divide. And then plus 12. Remember, this one goes pretty quick too because we end up with just two terms at x plus 6. So x cubed divided by x. Notice x, where do you have the first part? We know it's going to be 6, but let's just do this through. X cubed, x times negative 3x is negative 3x squared, x times 2, 2x, and then minus plus minus 6x squared, negative 18x, bring down the 12, divide 6x squared divided by x. So that'll be plus 6. 6 times x squared, and we already know it's going to be 0, but you got to check this part because what if you made a mistake somewhere and it didn't work out? So be careful of that. So 6 times negative 3, negative 18x. 6 times 2, switch the signs, and we get 0, 0, 0. So x plus 6. Final answer, x plus 6. So what method was faster? Oh, that's weird. Circle. So which way was faster for you? That's up to you to decide. Which method do you remember to do? That's also up for you to decide. The math thinking that we're doing is we're dividing. That's really what we're doing. We have three things equal to something, multiply together to equal something. We want to solve for one of these. We have to multiply and divide. Either all sorts of ways that we can get there. All right, so before we look at our answer key from practice 3, one thing I want us to remind ourselves, we did this for the do now, what method we'll use to divide the polynomials and why. So we want to think of efficiency. So when we're thinking of efficiency, so what are you going to do to divide A? What are you going to do to divide B? Make sure you say Y. You can pause it. All right, so for this first one, we're dividing by x squared. So how would we divide by x squared? The only way we can do that one is long division. We don't know a synthetic division method of doing it. Unless you could factor this. That's possible to factor this. And then, I mean, if this was factorable, it does not seem factorable right now. Then you could factor it, then do synthetic division. But right now we can't. We can only do long division. And how about this bottom one? That's right, we can do both. So this one we can do long division or synthetic division. And it's really up to you to decide which one you want to do. Which one is most efficient for you? More people choose synthetic division, but there are some that find long division faster. So when we're looking at the setups of these, this first one, remember it's going to be x squared plus x minus 3. And for this part, notice that we don't have an x cubed, so we have to add in a 0x cubed. So we really have to write 8x to the 4th plus 0x cubed plus 2x squared minus 12x plus 9. Ooh, I thought I was able to fit it in. I spoke too soon. Wow. Can't fit the 9 in there. Oh, well. There's a 9 right there. Anyway, all right, so let's move on to here. So we have set this equal to 0, so x, oh, that's why I switched. That's why I couldn't write anymore. Oh, now it's writing kind of weird. Really slow. All right, now it should be fast again. All right, so x plus 5 equals 0, so x equals negative 5. Well, this is really great now. It's like slowing down. So we do negative 5. Oh boy. 2. Notice that there's no x squared, so it's 0x squared. So we have a 0. We have a negative 4. We have a positive 5. See how slow everything just got? Real slow. All right. And then you would just do synthetic division. Okay, I shouldn't have gone through all that, but anyway. So your answer key for 1, 2, and 3. So let me get those mostly on the screen here so you can see I even showed the work for these. I'm not sure why. I just felt like it. And then we have our answers. So you can pause it. And then we have our 4, 5, and 6. Oops, let me show 4 a little better. Move this over here. All right, so we can see that we have these factors. Notice I write all 3 factors, the 2 solutions. We don't need to put this alone because it just says other zeros. When it says other zeros, we just need to define the other 2 numbers that are the zeros. And then we have our next assignment. Practice 4. 1, 2, 3. Divide using the most appropriate. So think about which one you're going to use for this. Again, most appropriate. Think about what's going to work most efficiently for you. All right, and then number 3, find an expression for the missing dimension. So what do we do for that one, number 3? And so we have our volume. We're missing our length. We have our width, and we have our height. So figure out what you need to do for that one. And then 4, 5, and 6. 4, Factor the polynomial, so factor it completely when this, we know this is a factor. And then how about this last part here? It says the volume of a box is this. If the length is a certain part and the width is a certain part, what is the height? It says draw the box, so make sure you draw it, and then find the missing dimension. So we're finding, if we have length and width, we're finding height. All right, and then number 6, what are the other zeros? Notice that it says one of them is x equals 6, so it's really, this is what it's saying here. I hope you have a great day. So today I'll have office hours from, I have to change it, so it's going to really be from, so Tuesday, it's just a half hour earlier, so it's really 1:30 to 3:30, and then Wednesday will still be the 1 to 3. So that's still the same. This one is just a half hour earlier. All right, and I'll put those codes on the assignment. Hope you have a great day. Talk to you later. Bye.